right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, obviously the big one of the week, is probably the fact that we got the first real posing update of Chris Bumstead at 4 weeks out from the Olympia, where you can actually see his physique. No sweatshirt, no tank top, and actually hitting poses in this one, albeit they are men's physique poses, kind of jokingly. Which was the funny part of this update to me, is even though he's joking around, he's hitting men's physique poses, he's not even hitting classic poses. It was funny to me that he still actually looked really impressive in this update, not even trying. You know, we talk a lot about Chris's size for classic physique, how he's tall, how he's a little bit more muscular than everybody else, but the main thing that always really impressed me the most, and I think that really makes Chris's physique stand out from the rest, in addition to the obvious size, is the width of his lats, in particular from the front. I remember when Chris first hit the scene a couple years ago, my favorite pose that Chris would hit was the front lat spread, which isn't even a mandatory pose in classic physique, but he, even at that time, early in his career, had one of the most impressive front lat spreads in terms of the width that he showed off from the front, the taper that he had, the small waist with those crazy lats from the front. And I point that out to say, when he's hitting these men's physique poses, you see that exact same thing happening here, that crazy width that's visible in his lats from the front that contributes to that insane taper that he's got. And I always think it's interesting when I see an update from Chris, and I think it looks impressive. I think it's interesting to go to some of the Brazilian bodybuilding pages that are either in Portuguese or Spanish and see what they posted about Chris Bumstead, or what that update, what their opinion of that update was, and then read some of the comments, translate them, because it's interesting to see if anybody would be biased against Chris and want Chris to lose. It would probably be the Brazilian fans, because they want Ramon to win. But I think most of the comments, I saw this comparison on Brazil Bodybuilding News, CBUM versus Ramon. They post one of Ramon's recent updates versus Chris's, a still shot from that video. And when you read through a lot of those comments on that post, some of the ones that are in Portuguese, there's a lot of Brazilian fans saying, I don't think Ramon's going to win this year. So there's even Brazilian fans saying things like, it's not even close, Chris is gigantic, Chris is massive, Chris is incredible, and people saying, you know, only when Chris retires will Ramon be able to win. So I think it's interesting when Chris posts an update that's really impressive to read some of the Brazilian comments, because like I said, if anybody would want to downplay the impressiveness of a CBUM update, it would be them. But if you look at some of those Brazilian pages, even the Brazilian fans are like, well, maybe next year, Ramon. Which, to me, is really quite a big part of the legacy that I think Chris is going to leave behind when and if he does retire this year after the Olympia. Is not only did Chris win the most classic physique titles so far, but during Chris's era, he was just dominant and really undisputed. I don't really think there's been a year that Chris has won the Olympia where there was a significant amount of people saying he shouldn't have won. I think every time Chris has won has really been pretty dominant, and every year you don't really see much conversation of, oh, this is the year Chris is going to lose it. It's always more of a conversation of, well, who's the guy that's going to be second this year? That seems to change more, and does change more, than Chris winning does. Because Chris winning is really the only thing that has stayed the same since he started winning as far as the placings. And even with all this discussion about Ramon and Wesley after the Arnold, even that discussion when talking about Ramon and Wesley is mostly which one of these guys is going to be second this year. It's more like, does Wesley have a shot at being second instead of Ramon? It's not even really a conversation of, will either of these guys beat Chris Bumstead? It's really which one of these guys will be second, which when you think about that, it's really pretty impressive that that's the conversation surrounding Chris almost every year. Now, next up in the news, here's a guy that we haven't talked a whole lot about. We got several physique updates from GoodVito. He's saying he's at his all-time biggest right now. And he's a relatively short guy. I think he's 5'6" or 5'7", so keep that in mind when you're hearing these numbers. He says that he weighs 130 kilos in these pictures. That's 286.6 pounds. Now, he says that his goal here, I believe by the end of the year, is to hit 135 kilos, which is 297 pounds. So he wants to gain more than 5 kilos, over 10 pounds, seemingly before the end of the year, or at least in the near future during this off-season cycle that he's experiencing right now. So that kind of suggests to me that we might not get to see GoodVito compete before the end of 2024. Realistically, there's a little bit more than 3 months left in the year. For him to gain 10 more pounds of quality size, muscle mass, and then also cut back down for a show within those 3 months, I think is pretty unlikely that he would be able to do both. Especially if 130 kilos, if that's his all-time biggest, putting 10 more pounds on top of that is a pretty substantial accomplishment. I don't think he's going to do that overnight. And I wonder what you guys think about this, because Vito has been kind of not talked about because he competed kind of early in the season at that Detroit show. And the next big thing that we were all talking about as far as a new up-and-coming guy was Neckzilla. There's been a ton of talk about Rubiel, and I think GoodVito's kind of gotten forgotten about a bit. And honestly, I think overall, he has impressed me more than Neckzilla has. Just from the standpoint of, A, he showed up to the show that he said he was going to do, and B, I think he brought really impressive conditioning, because similar to Neckzilla, he's a young guy that a lot of people were talking about just how big he looked in his social media pictures. Kind of the same thing with Neckzilla. But he came into that show in Detroit, and even though he lost to Martin Fitzwater, he came in pretty ripped, pretty impressive conditioning, one of my favorite top twos, honestly, of the entire year, outside of the Olympia last year. So Rubiel might have more freak factor than GoodVito as far as these new, young, potential stars, but I think GoodVito has freak factor and has also delivered on the hype that he's been getting. Arguably, even before we saw Rubiel compete this year, Rubiel was still getting a lot more hype than GoodVito was. And I think if you're going to talk about impressive quads, you've got to include GoodVito in that conversation. I mean, look at the size of his legs in these updates at almost 290 pounds. Again, he's a pretty short guy, so when we're talking about numbers near 300 pounds, it's different than when we're talking about a Samson Dauda or an Andrew Jacked. And for his legs to be that separated at what he says is his all-time heaviest weight, that's pretty impressive, because while with Neckzilla, he's got pretty impressive volume to his legs, he doesn't have separation like this in the off-season. He's got vascularity, but the separation that Vito has here is pretty damn impressive in his quads for just the sheer size of his legs. And I would even argue with that separation, it might make him more impressive than Rubiel, because I feel like Rubiel's legs are more just sheer size. And that's one of the battles that I really want to see, is hopefully at the 2025 Olympia, we can have GoodVito qualify, maybe Rubiel qualifies. I would like to see them battle it out on the Olympia stage for which freak from overseas is going to be the faster or better of the two rising stars. Now, the final story that I've got for you guys today, this latest update from Behrooz Tabani, and again, we're under 4 weeks out now from the Olympia. This is one of the most impressive updates I think I've seen from Behrooz. Just the sheer detail that this guy has. He's got great lines, really small waist for an open guy. He looks just shredded to the bone at 4 weeks out from the Olympia. And I think, again, I want to remind the bodybuilding community and everybody watching this that maybe could help Behrooz somehow get his visa. This guy is without a doubt one of the best bodybuilders on the planet right now, especially with that Dubai Pro win where he beat both Nathan Bonac and Neckzilla. This guy, Behrooz, 100% belongs on that Olympia stage. And if this becomes the third year in a row he's denied his visa for the Olympia, I think it's really going to be one of the biggest shames for the bodybuilding industry that a guy that I think, frankly, is one of the top 10 best physiques in the world. I think, without a doubt, Behrooz would be in that top 10. And if 3 years in a row he's never given the opportunity to compete and prove that and compete with the best of the best, which I think is where his physique belongs, it really is a shame. I mean, you look at this guy's career, some of the shows he's won, some of the bodybuilders he's beaten, again, my mind, that instantly goes to the Dubai Pro. That was probably his most impressive victory so far. I mean, this is this guy's job, and he's good at his job. He wants to come to the States and be the best at his job. I just really can't comprehend why this could be the third year in the row he's denied that opportunity. And I still don't know about the status of Nathan Diasha either. I mean, last time Nathan just showed up in the States. He was able to get a flight from wherever he was. I guess it was straight from UK to the US. So he was able to get on a flight to the US. Then he was stopped once he got here. So I don't know what his odds are of getting that situation resolved. I don't know that Behrooz has ever gotten that far as to even get to the point of being able to get on a flight to the United States. So I think that maybe Nathan was a little bit ahead of him as far as his chances. But Nathan's issue was for different reasons. It was legal issues. Obviously, it's not very difficult to travel if you're a UK citizen to the US compared to Iran to the US. But we'll see. Like I said, I just think it'll be a real shame. I mean, you look at this update, I don't know how anybody could deny this isn't one of the best bodybuilders in the world and belongs on that stage. I mean, I guess unless there's some kind of extenuating circumstance why he can't. I saw that there were rumors that he may have served in the military over there or something like that, but I think those still are unconfirmed. So who knows? But whatever the reason is, I still want to see him on that Olympia stage. Let him do his job. But that's all for the video today, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at NICKS&P, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.